Confucius once said, "If a man be without the virtues proper to humanity, what has he to do with the rights of propriety?" In plain terms, respect isn't won by posturing or ceremony. It's not about status symbols, or loud voices, or forcing obedience. True respect flows from conduct, from the daily habits that reveal your character. Over 2,000 years ago, Confucius walked from state to state in China, advising rulers, teaching students, and speaking to farmers in village markets. Wherever he went, people noticed something remarkable: he carried respect without demanding it. His presence alone made people want to listen. So what were his habits? And how can we practice them today, in our workplaces, families, and communities? Let's walk through 10 habits of Confucius that win respect instantly. 1. Begin with composure. Confucius believed that the way you arrive often decides the way you will be heard. His students recorded how, before stepping into the presence of a ruler, he would stop at the doorway. He did not rush. He smoothed his robes, adjusted his cap, and took a breath. They said it was as if his whole body changed, from the ordinary man they had been traveling with, dusty from the road, into someone carrying the weight of centuries of wisdom. The transformation wasn't theatrical. It wasn't done for show. It was for discipline. To remind himself, this moment deserves my full presence. By the time he stepped forward, he was not distracted, not rushed, not careless, but composed. And that composure commanded attention long before he spoke. People can sense how you enter a space. If you burst into a meeting with your phone still in your hand, papers half stuffed into your bag, muttering about the traffic or the emails waiting for you, the room takes on your agitation. Everyone braces. Everyone shrinks. But if you arrive with composure, standing tall, breathing steady, making eye contact, you change the room. You don't need to raise your voice or assert your authority. The steadiness itself becomes contagious. Imagine 2 managers. The first bursts into the Monday morning meeting 5 minutes late, apologizes too loudly, complains about the commute, and flips through the agenda while talking. The team glances at one another, already resigned to a chaotic week. Now picture the second. They enter calmly, greet each person by name, set down their notebook deliberately, and sit upright. No speeches. No posturing. Just presence. Without demanding respect, they already have it. This principle carries beyond the workplace. In families, a parent who enters a room shouting instantly escalates tension. A parent who pauses outside the door, takes one breath, and enters calmly can settle a storm before it begins. Online, the same principle applies. The way you arrive in a conversation, whether in tone, timing, or posture of words, determines whether people brace against you or lean in to listen. Confucius' disciples learned that composure is not an accessory to respect. It is the gateway to it. Arrive with chaos, and you spread chaos. Arrive with calm, and you set the standard. 2. Honor the greeting. Confucius taught that respect is not something you save for the powerful. It is something you practice with everyone, beginning with the smallest gestures. His disciples noted how he would always rise to greet a guest, whether it was an elder statesman or a poor farmer from the countryside. To bow before a ruler was expected. To bow before a villager was radical. One story tells of a wealthy lord who once dismissed a farmer's greeting, treating it as beneath him. Confucius, standing nearby, did not follow suit. Instead, he stepped forward and bowed to the farmer himself. The message was subtle but unmistakable: respect is owed not to status, but to humanity itself. The greeting, in Confucius' world, was never just a ritual. It was a recognition of shared dignity. A reminder that every encounter begins with acknowledgement, before advice, before command, before instruction. Without it, the rest unravels. This habit still separates leaders from pretenders today. Consider the colleague who continues scrolling through their phone while shaking someone's hand. Technically, the greeting happened. But what did it mean? Nothing. The other person walks away feeling invisible. Now picture the colleague who stops what they're doing, looks you in the eye, says your name, and listens to your first sentence without interruption. That moment creates far more trust than a dozen motivational speeches later. Or think of the neighbor who remembers your name after a single introduction. Contrast that with the executive who's worked with you for months yet still can't recall it. One has no formal power, but earns respect instantly. The other has authority but loses esteem. Families feel this principle, too. A teenager who comes home to a distracted grunt from a parent learns to withdraw. The same teenager, met with eye contact and a genuine, "Hey, how was your day?" learns they are seen. Online interactions reveal the same pattern. A quick, "Thanks for sharing," or the effort to spell someone's name correctly in a reply tells people they matter. Skipping the greeting, or treating it as disposable, turns a conversation into a transaction. Confucius knew that respect begins not with speeches, but with greetings. A bow, a nod, a name remembered, these are small signals, but they declare something profound. I see you. I honor you as a fellow human being. When leaders practice this habit, they don't just win respect, they give it, and in doing so, they multiply it. 3. Speak with measure. Confucius was never known for endless speeches. His disciples sometimes pressed him, "Master, why do you not talk more?" He answered with a question of his own, "Does heaven speak? Yet the seasons run their course." It was a profound lesson. Nature does not shout, yet it commands. Spring arrives, crops grow, leaves fall, no declaration needed. In the same way, Confucius believed that authority is strengthened not by quantity of words, but by their integrity. He had little patience for empty promises or dramatic declarations. In his eyes, restraint was not weakness, it was discipline. When he finally spoke, his words carried the weight of silence behind them. People listened because they knew he would not waste breath on triviality. This principle resonates sharply today. Consider two managers. One fills every meeting with monologues, layering new promises on top of yesterday's unfulfilled ones. The team stops listening because experience has taught them that most of those words will evaporate. The other manager speaks less, but when they do, the team pays attention. Why? Because history shows that if they say something will happen, it does. If they commit, they follow through. Their words have weight because they are measured. The same holds true in families. A parent who shouts constantly loses authority, the noise becomes background. But a parent who speaks with calm deliberation, who saves correction for when it truly matters, commands attention when they finally raise their voice. The difference isn't volume. It's credibility. Online, the contrast is even clearer. Loud accounts post constantly, chasing every argument. They may burn brightly for a time, but they fade quickly. The thoughtful accounts, posting less but with depth and consistency, endure. Followers lean in not because of noise, but because of signal. Speaking with measure does not mean silence in the face of injustice or avoiding clarity. It means choosing words that fit the weight of the moment, avoiding the inflation that devalues language. As Confucius modeled, words should be like coinage, valuable because they are rare and reliable. To practice this habit today, speak only as far as you're willing to act. Don't make a promise your character won't sustain. Let pauses work for you. A moment of silence before speaking shows you value what comes next. Build a record of follow-through. Over time, it is this history that makes people lean in when you finally speak. In the end, people don't respect leaders because they speak the most. They respect those who speak the truth, at the right time, in the right measure, just enough to guide, never so much that the words themselves lose their gravity. 4. Listen with presence. Among Confucius' disciples, one in particular, Zilu, was fiery and impatient. He was quick to interrupt, eager to prove himself in every discussion. On one occasion, Confucius stopped him gently. To listen silently is better than to speak rashly. The lesson was clear: wisdom enters through the ears before it leaves through the mouth. But it wasn't only Confucius' words that struck his students, it was his example. He listened as carefully to a farmer describing the rhythm of his fields as he did to a duke outlining matters of state. He would lean forward, eye steady, body present. The person before him felt, perhaps for the first time that week, that their words mattered. This quiet discipline of listening left a lasting impression. It showed that respect is not only something we express in speech or ritual, but in the act of giving undivided attention. Think about today's equivalent. In a corporate setting, the senior executive who makes space for an intern's idea, who pauses the rush of a meeting and says, "Let's hear them out," transforms the room. Suddenly, others follow suit, and the culture shifts towards inclusivity and innovation. Or in family life, a child hesitates at the doorway, unsure if they should speak. The parent who closes the laptop, silences the phone, and turns fully toward the child sends a message without words: you matter more than this screen. That child may not remember every conversation in detail, but they will remember the feeling of being heard. Even in friendships or community work, presence carries weight. We all know the frustration of speaking to someone whose eyes flicker to their phone mid-sentence, or whose responses prove they were only half listening. Compare that with the friend who remembers the small details you mentioned weeks ago: the job interview, the doctor's appointment, the book you were reading. That kind of listening builds trust that no amount of talking can buy. Listening with presence is not passive. It is active effort, stilling your inner chatter, resisting the urge to compose your reply, and giving full dignity to another's voice. Confucius modeled it across social ranks, showing that respect is not selective. To practice this habit today: remove distractions, put the phone away, close the laptop, let your body signal attention. Pause before replying, show you have digested, not just heard. Echo back essentials, a short restatement proves you were present and creates clarity. As Confucius showed, people may forget the content of a conversation, but they never forget whether they were truly listened to. And in a world of constant noise, the gift of full attention is rare enough to feel like respect itself. 5. Keep your promises, especially the small ones. History remembers Confucius not only for what he taught, but for what he refused to compromise. In times of famine, some rulers bent their own laws to protect their reputations. They demanded loyalty while breaking the very trust that held their people together. Confucius would not stand beside them. Rather than align himself with broken word and hollow authority, he quietly withdrew from service. To him, credibility was worth more than rank. A leader who cannot keep faith with their own promises cannot expect loyalty from others. But notice, Confucius did not place the weight of trust only on grand declarations. He emphasized the daily consistency of one's word. A sweeping promise to govern justly means little if you cannot keep the smaller ones that happen quietly in everyday life. Think of how respect grows or withers today. In the workplace, it's not the once-a-year strategy speech that shapes your reputation most, it's whether you reviewed a draft when you said you would, whether you showed up to the meeting on time, whether you followed through on that "I'll get back to you tomorrow." Each kept promise adds a brick to the structure of trust. Each neglected one pulls a brick away. In family life, the same truth applies. Telling your partner you'll pick up dinner, then arriving home empty-handed, may seem small, but repeated enough times, it signals unreliability. Children notice it too. If you promise to attend their match or recital but fail without explanation, they learn quickly that your word is negotiable. Respect in a home is not lost through one grand betrayal, but through the slow erosion of dozens of little broken commitments. Even online, promises matter. Perhaps you run a small community group or post regular updates. Announce a weekly schedule and abandon it after 2 weeks without explanation, and people drift away. But if you show up consistently, even imperfectly, your credibility compounds. People don't respect flawless performance as much as they respect reliable presence. The paradox of promises is this: the smaller they seem, the more they shape how people view you. Big vows are rare, small commitments are daily. Keep them, and people feel safe relying on you. Break them, and no speech can restore the quiet respect that slipped away. To practice this Confucian habit today: make fewer promises, but keep every one. Don't pledge lightly. Each yes must be real. Treat small commitments as sacred. The coffee you said you'd bring, the message you promised to send, the 5 minutes you offered to help, they all count. Correct quickly if you slip. Confess, repair, reset. A missed promise owned openly restores more trust than pretending it didn't matter. Confucius would remind us, nothing wins respect faster than proving your word holds, and nothing loses it faster than proving it doesn't. 6. Let the body speak respect. Confucius believed that respect is not only heard in words, but seen in how the body moves. The Analects describe him bowing with full intention, never shallow, never rushed. When he walked, he did so at a measured pace, never barging or slouching. At meals, he sat upright, as if the act of eating itself deserved dignity. His posture was a kind of silent teaching: respect is communicated before you open your mouth. His disciples noticed it. They recorded that when Confucius entered a temple, he carried himself with the same solemnity as if he stood before a king. And when he met with villagers or minor officials, he gave the same careful attention. That consistency of bearing told people they mattered. Respect wasn't selective, it was habitual. Think of the opposite. A ruler in Confucius' day could dismiss a man's worth with a flick of the hand or a careless lean. Those gestures corroded authority. People obeyed, but they did not admire. Confucius' influence, by contrast, outlasted kings, because his conduct showed that he respected even the most ordinary encounters. We recognize this instantly today. A manager says, "Great work," but keeps typing through your update, the words ring hollow. A friend says they're listening, but their body is angled toward the TV. The gestures betray the speech. On the other hand, the person who closes the laptop when you speak, or who turns their whole body toward you in conversation, earns your trust without a sentence. Small physical acts can transform respect in modern life. Standing up to greet someone, even in casual settings. Holding eye contact long enough to show presence, but not to intimidate. Matching your tone of voice with open posture, so that thanks sounds like thanks. These may seem minor, but they compound. Over time, people remember less of your exact words and more of how it felt to be in your presence. Confucius knew that gestures linger in memory like echoes. Carry yourself with quiet dignity, and respect arrives before you speak. 7. Correct quietly, praise loudly. Confucius was meticulous in how he handled mistakes. In the Analects, it's noted that when a student fumbled a ritual, perhaps bowing at the wrong moment or misplacing an offering, he never called them out in front of the others. He would wait until the crowd had dispersed, then gently explain what went wrong and how to improve. The error was corrected, but the student's dignity remained intact. But when someone showed a spark of virtue, a gesture of generosity, or a particularly thoughtful question, Confucius amplified it. He pointed it out to the group, not to flatter, but to set an example worth repeating. By protecting mistakes and spotlighting virtue, he created a culture where people felt safe to learn and motivated to do better. Contrast this with the rulers of his time who ruled by fear. A mistake in the court could mean a public beating or dismissal. People obeyed, but they did so out of terror, not loyalty. Confucius understood that shame silences, respect opens ears. Quiet correction builds trust. Loud praise builds culture. Modern life offers endless parallels. In the workplace, a manager who cuts down an employee in front of clients might feel powerful for a moment, but respect quietly drains from the room. The team learns to hide errors instead of surfacing them early. But a manager who saves criticism for a private one-on-one, and reserves the team meeting to celebrate small wins, builds loyalty that lasts. At home, it works the same way. Correct a child's mistake in front of their friends and you might win obedience, but you'll lose their openness. Correct them later, with calm words, and they'll be more willing to listen. And when you praise them in front of grandparents or teachers, you cement confidence and pride that no lecture could match. Even online, the pattern is clear. Public callouts escalate conflict. A respectful private message can diffuse it. Yet public recognition, thanking a contributor, sharing credit, carries more weight than a dozen private notes. The memory that lingers is not the exact words, but the feeling, this person protected me when I slipped, and they lifted me when I shone. That is the kind of respect that becomes loyalty. 8. Honor shared spaces. Confucius understood that respect wasn't just in words, but in the way people treated the environments they shared. In temples and schools, he would pause to straighten mats before sitting, brush dust from ritual vessels, and adjust scrolls so they were neat. These weren't grand gestures, but his disciples noticed. He showed the same care for places belonging to everyone as he did for his own home. In one account, Confucius walked into a public hall where villagers had gathered, and before he spoke, he quietly rearranged the seating so elders had a proper place of honor. No one had asked him to. He simply demonstrated, through action, that shared space deserved order and dignity. The lesson was clear: when you respect what belongs to all, people trust you with what belongs to them. This principle still holds in the smallest details of daily life. In the workplace, the colleague who rinses their mug in the office sink, wipes the counter, and leaves the space ready for the next person earns more respect than the one who leaves dishes piled up. The team member who clears whiteboards after a meeting communicates as much about their character as they do in their presentation. At home, shared spaces matter just as much. A teenager who treats the living room as if it's only theirs, leaving mess for others to navigate, erodes harmony. But when family members pick up after themselves, return borrowed items without being asked, or keep common rooms welcoming, they build trust silently. The same is true online. Respect for digital shared spaces, group chats, community forums, collaborative documents, is revealed in small habits. Do you read the thread before replying? Do you credit the person whose idea you're building on? Do you tidy shared files instead of creating chaos? These are today's versions of arranging the mats. The truth is simple: anyone can behave well in their private domain. But character shows when no one is watching, and when the benefit is not personal. Honoring shared spaces proves you're trustworthy beyond self-interest. People will not always remember the words you said, but they will remember how it felt to share a space with you. Did you leave it better, or worse? That memory becomes your reputation. 9. Share credit freely. Confucius never styled himself as an originator of wisdom. "I transmit, I do not create," he said, always pointing back to the sages of earlier generations. Even when his followers praised his teaching, he redirected the honor. "The men of old discovered these truths, I only pass them on." It was humility, yes, but also strategy. By sharing credit, he made his students feel part of something larger than his own reputation. In practice, this turned disciples into devoted allies. They didn't feel like props for his greatness, they felt like partners in a tradition worth carrying forward. That's why his words survived not just his lifetime, but thousands of years after. The same holds true today. In work, consider two managers. One presents a project as their victory, barely mentioning the team. The other names the designer who solved the problem, the analyst who caught the risk, the intern whose fresh eyes spotted a gap. Which leader would you follow? Respect sticks to the one who lets it flow outward, not the one who hoards it. In families, too, credit matters. A parent who takes every success as their own achievement creates resentment. But the one who says, "She studied hard for this," or "He worked weeks to save for that," teaches pride without ego. Children learn that respect grows when it's shared. Even online, credibility comes not from pretending you invented every idea, but from showing where you learned. The writer who links their sources, the creator who names their influences, the speaker who acknowledges mentors, they gain authority by being generous. People trust those who are confident enough to say, "This wisdom did not start with me." When credit flows, loyalty deepens. Teams work harder because they know their part will be seen. Friends open up because they know they'll be valued, not overshadowed. Communities thrive because people feel their contribution matters. Respect doesn't cling to those who grasp for it. It lingers around those who let it pass through them, like light reflected on a mirror. Confucius understood that. The more credit you give away, the more people insist on giving it back. 10. End with sincerity. Confucius was meticulous not just in how he entered a room, but in how he left it. His disciples wrote that he never ended an encounter abruptly. After an audience with a ruler or a visit to a friend, he would bow fully, express thanks, and withdraw with dignity. His leave-taking was deliberate, almost ritual, not perfunctory. It mattered because he understood something many forget: endings are not afterthoughts. They are the final brushstroke people remember. In fact, there are stories of Confucius correcting even small lapses in courtesy at farewells. When a student once left a gathering without offering thanks, Confucius quietly explained that the exit lingers longer in memory than the entrance. A sharp word at the door can undo an entire evening of harmony. A sincere bow, on the other hand, can redeem even a stumbling start. That principle is strikingly modern. Think about a workplace meeting. Two managers contribute equally. One abruptly shuts their laptop the moment the agenda ends, muttering something about the next call. The other looks around the table, thanks everyone for their input, and names one thing accomplished together. Both leave, but the impressions are night and day. Which manager's leadership do people carry into the week? In family life, it is the same. The partner who ends the day with criticism plants seeds of resentment overnight. The one who pauses, even briefly, to say, "I'm grateful for you today," closes the day with warmth. The child who is tucked into bed with a kind word remembers the last note, not the chaos of the hours before. Exits frame memory. Even online, endings echo. The person who vanishes from a group chat without acknowledgement leaves a gap. The one who says, "Thanks for the discussion, I've learned something," creates goodwill that outlasts the debate. On social platforms, the tone of a sign-off, gracious or dismissive, can determine whether people return to engage again. How do you practice this habit? It doesn't require ceremony, only intention. At the close of a meeting, state gratitude for one specific contribution. At the end of a day, send a brief message of thanks to someone who made it easier. Before leaving a room, take 2 seconds to acknowledge those who remain. Endings, in Confucian thought, are part of propriety, the rituals that knit social fabric. They are not empty gestures but the glue that turns interactions into relationships. Respect is not only won at entrances or in the middle of conversation. It is sealed in the exit. A door closed with sincerity leaves people wanting to open it to you again. Confucius taught that respect is not demanded, it is earned, one habit at a time. From the way you enter a room to the way you leave it, every action either deepens or diminishes it. Who in your life models true respect? Tag them in the comments, and share this video with someone who's ready to build it. And tell me below, which of these 10 habits will you start practicing today? For more ancient wisdom applied to modern life, subscribe now and join me for the next lesson. Respect isn't a one-off gesture, it's a daily practice.